Hello and welcome to the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast. You are joined by your usual hosts here, T-Money himself, Tom Mannering, and me, Josh Hartley. Tom,
T-Money.
You can't see this, but the other thought I had was it was either T-Money or T-Daddy, and I think you would rather T-Money.
I'm okay with T-Money in that circumstance.
Yeah. So yes, welcome. Thanks for tuning in. How are we doing this week, Tom?
I'm doing good, mate. I'm doing good. How are you doing? No. How are you? Not how are you doing?
How are you doing? No one asks me that. Yeah, I'm all right. No, I'm all right. Fairly uneventful week. I'm like, I've got like, I'm working Monday next week, and then I've got the rest of the time off because it might be my birthday.
What? No.
Yeah.
Lies.
If anyone wants to send me a birthday card, they can...
Just give your address out.
I'm not going to give out my address. Sorry, what was that?
Give your address out.
I'm not giving my address out, no. That's a bad idea. Anyway, we do have a few things to have a chat about. There's a bit of GW news with regards to releases. Ben suggested that we have a chat about the Queen's Gambit, and apparently it has driven a lot of new interest in the game of chess, which is cool. However, Tom, it's weird dream time.
Oh, what? You didn't warn me about this before.
I didn't warn you. No, I wanted your raw reaction to this.
God.
I had a dream the other night. Okay. So, I am in my kitchen, minding my own business, and I hear... I'm washing the dishes or something like that, and I hear at the kitchen door Ben saying, I didn't want to do this. I'm like, what? And then he tries to garrote me with, like, specifically, and I don't know how he would have it because I was at the sink washing the dishes, but he was garroting me with, like, the chain for the plug in the kitchen sink, right?
Okay.
Anyway, we struggled for a bit, and I managed to get off him. I'm like, whoa, what the hell? And he's like, oh, look, I'm sorry. Tom paid me to do it. So, flash forward, in the dream, I confront you about this, and I'm just like, Tom, like, Ben said you gave him money to kill me. What the hell? And your reaction was, and I'm going to try and mimic this as best as possible. Ha! Oh yeah, that. And I wake up. What the hell?
Josh, I don't want to break this to you too harshly, but that wasn't a dream.
Oh, the drugs worked.
Yeah, that's weird. Like, I'm not sure what that says. If that says more about you or your opinion of Ben or me or.
I don't know. Like, I am like, the older I get, the more I think dreams mean absolutely nothing. Because, like, I've been a bloody dog walking grannies around Asda. I've been getting, like, assassinated by one of my best pals. It's like, none of it, and others that I will not disclose on a podcast. None of it makes sense. None of it makes sense. Yeah, listeners, this is the stuff I'm willing to share. So, you know, do you remember many of your dreams?
I do, yeah. I have. It's a bit of a curse, actually, having quite a creative imagination when it comes to dreaming, because I do have some pretty messed up dreams. I don't really remember them in quite the same narrative fashion that you seem to. You seem to get more of a cohesive storyline than I do, whereas I get more like Saturday Night Live sketches of horror and eroticism sort of woven together.
I mean, that doesn't sound bad.
The horror is not great. Like, I've had some truly, like, why was that in my head? Like levels of horror, where I'm like, well, that's a dark corner of my mind I never wish to revisit. But no, I don't get the full story that you do. I've had one or two, but I'm not going to disclose them on a podcast.
I will say this. The reason why I've shared, like, whenever I share a dream on the podcast is because it's been very vivid and very distinct, and there has been, like, quite a cohesive narrative to it, as random as sometimes they are. But most of the time, it is just kind of like, what the hell? I mean, I don't. People have never really figured out what are dreams, what are they for, like what's going on there, like why do we have them?
I don't think they have like a reason. I'm not one of these people that believes you can read dreams or anything like that. And if you do believe that, that's fine. But it's not something I go in for. But I think there's something to them. Like I think subconsciously we try and reconcile things, and I think some of that probably gets messed into your dreaming world, your dreamscape, if you will, to give it its narrative name. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a level of nonsense and there's a level of maybe a little bit more to them.
Do you know who I'm really jealous of? Is people who can lucid dream. That sounds awesome.
I don't know if I buy into that like a lot. Like that's a lot of people. I lucid dream. Yeah. That's those are the same people that like when someone blows a silent whistle and goes, "This is really high pitched." Like I hear it. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's me.
Are the same people who liked X-Band before they were cool.
Yeah. Like I've had dreams where I felt like I could control it more, but I think that's just because in the dream I maybe did the kind of things that I would have done. So it felt like it was an illusion of choice, if you will, rather than an actual choice.
That's probably what lucid dreaming actually is. I've never connected those dots until you've just said it. Then that's definitely what it is. Like,
there you go, solved it.
There we are.
Another one down.
Mystery solved. Myth busted. So yeah, tune in at some point in the unknown future for more weird dreams that Josh has. Back to your regularly scheduled tabletop gaming podcast. So, news-wise. As of today, the recording today of of Friday the 4th of December, GW have announced that the Death Guard release for this that was initially planned for December is now getting pushed back to January. I'm very disappointed, and it's not long to wait. The thing is, I have a lot of time off over December. And Ben and I were planning on starting to do some Crusade games. And we can still do Crusade games. The difference is you get so much rules for that in your Codex. So he'll have a ton of rules because he's got a Space Marine faction. And I won't. So we were kind of holding out for my Codex to come out. So
there is genuine sadness on your face right now. Like there is, like you look borderline grief stricken.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm just gonna have to play 40k with normal rules now. It's gonna be like, it's fine. And the reason they stated on their article was logistical complications related to COVID. Now, if I remember correctly, all of their books are not, unlike the miniatures are all produced in-house, but the books are not. The books are printed, I think, in Poland, if I remember
they're
right.
certainly overseas. I know that much. I can't remember exactly where, though.
So I suspect that is the reason as to why it's been delayed. But a bit of a disappointment, but I am going to be getting the Blood Angels supplement, hopefully in the post tomorrow, because I pre-ordered it. So looking forward to that. And as Tom already knows, because I shared this with him earlier in the week, I might have succumbed and bought one of the boxes of Indomitus that's been re-released. So...
Yep. I did know that.
Keep me busy. That'll keep me busy.
You took very little persuasion in making that decision.
I really didn't need any persuasion. Basically, I sent the message to like Ben and Tom. They both responded with the same gif of Emperor Palpatine just saying, "Do it." Ben actually had a range of "do it" gifs, including Shia LaBeouf, which was the most persuasive of the lot, I think.
Really?
But,
Not Palpatine?
I think I fear Shia LaBeouf more than Palpatine.
Oh, it's not about fear, though. It's about general gravitas. Like, Palpatine has a way about him that LaBeouf is never going to compare to. That's a sentence I never thought I'd say.
But here's the thing, like, LaBeouf is a real person.
Is he?
He could... New conspiracy theory, Shia LaBeouf doesn't exist. He's a figment of our imaginations.
I mean, have you ever seen him in person?
Well, but this is it. Like, he could, in theory, like, knock on my door tomorrow and kick my ass for not following his advice and buying Indomitus. So,
but he won't now, because you did.
I did, and so I'll get. Obviously, it's in two halves. You get a Necron half and a Space Marine half. I'm going to save the Space Marine half for Ben to paint up as Blood Angels. And I'm going to have a crack at painting the Necrons myself. But my bargain with myself for buying this is that I have to finish my miniatures for Blood Rage. So my week off next week, that's going to be my project. Get that finished. So I can have Indomitus guilt-free. I mean, apart from the financial cost of it, I can have it guilt-free.
I mean, painting Necrons for yourself is a pretty easy out. Like, there are a lot of dry brushing, if memory serves.
I actually looked up. It is Tabletop Minions on YouTube. I'm probably going to have to edit that when I realise I've named the wrong channel. I'm pretty sure it's Tabletop Minions posted a guide to painting Necrons, and it actually looks pretty straightforward. Prime and black. Dry brush silver onto them and use like a cheap makeup brush to do that, so you get a lot of coverage. And depending on which dynasty of Necrons you have, you can paint contrast paint over the silver, and it will look like a metallic version of that color because they're not contrast's not entirely opaque. So the silverness. Like, you know what I mean? The metallic effect will still come through.
That's cool.
So,
that's good.
Yeah.
A little bit of painting tips from Josh there. You don't get those often.
You don't get those often at all, to be honest, and for good reason. I'm not a bad painter, but I'm not amazing, and I'm not unlike Ben, who absolutely loves the process. I am. It feels more like a chore for me than something I actually enjoy. I enjoy the end product, but the getting there, I don't find anything like cathartic about it.
I have a really weird relationship with painting because I really enjoy it. I'm nowhere near as good as most people I know, but I really, really enjoy painting models. My issue with it is I hate how long it takes. It's one of these things. See, if I could do it for like half an hour. And have a finished model at the end of it, I'd be so happy. That'd be awesome. But it takes me like hours, literally 2-3 hours to do one model to a very basic standard, because I'm very slow and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, even though my painting is by no means perfect, which causes issues because I have to go back over things quite a lot when I go outside the lines, as I like to view it. So. Yeah, I have a very conflicted relationship with painting, so I know exactly where you're coming from.
So there's a couple of things. Your painting's decent. Like you're not at like Ben's level, but like not many people are. No, I've seen your armies. They look decent. But here's the thing with like painting as well. Like the thing I find frustrating is that your model will look like dog for like 80%, 90% of the process, and it's only towards the end where it's like, oh, this actually looks like the thing it's supposed to look like.
I think it's not the kind of task where you really see a reward, at any stage before the end, which should be quite disheartening, especially if you're doing a big project, like a big miniature or a big piece of terrain or even like a big unit as well. I hate batch painting, but you have to do it with some bigger units, and it can just be so destroying to spend hours and hours painting brown pants on someone, and at the end of 10 hours work, all you have are 30 cultists wearing shitty brown pants, and you just want to throw yourself out the nearest window.
I know I do it every week, but another shout out to Ben and Ashenhold Art. He has launched... No, right. He has launched his Patreon today.
Okay, that's fine.
So what he's doing is he's doing like tutorials on Patreon. It's £3 a month, £3 a month plus VAT, so $3.60 a month. The slant he's taking it is that he is going through the full process of planning and the process of finding what's the word I'm looking for?
Nemo.
Not Nemo. Thank you, Tom. There goes my train of thought now. It's not hard to do. It's the process of finding source material for putting your colours together. So the first tutorial that's up, he's painting I forget the name. Is it the Corvus Cabal from Warcry? The bird people. And he talks about getting inspiration from kookaburras for getting the right sort of colour palette for them, and how he goes about that, and all the planning that goes into it. So we'll put a link to Ashenhold Art's Facebook page and their Patreon page. So if that's something you're interested in, make your way over there and check it out. So
he's got a Facebook competition as well at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. I tagged you in it. It's basically go to the post. You need to like his page, make a comment under the post, commenting on what mini you would want him to paint, and tag one of your pals in it. And the winner will get said mini painted. It is a character mini, so don't go posting a Warlord Titan or something like that. I mean, you could try. He won't do it. But you could try.
But don't.
But don't be a dick. So
that's cool.
Check it out. We'll link all of that in the show notes below. So as Ben suggested, there's been some stats come out about the Queen's Gambit and its impact on its impact on a renewed interest in chess. I'm gonna look these said stats up now, but I haven't watched the show yet. But you have.
I've started watching it, yeah. It's basically it's sort of a drama, in that it is a drama.
Biographical as well, isn't it? This is based on fact.
Is it? I didn't actually know that. I know it's based on a book. I didn't realize the book was factual.
Okay, I may need to cut this bit out after I do some Googling.
I think it's better that you don't cut this out and your ignorance shows for everyone to see.
I had it in my head that it is biographical.
Okay.
This is a real person.
Interesting.
His name I don't know because I haven't watched the show yet. So.
Yeah, I honestly do not know if it's biographical. I know it's based on a book, quite an old book as well, and has obviously, due to the Netflix popularity, has caused a resurgence in both interest in the book, much like happened with Game of Thrones, and also a surge in interest in chess, which is no bad thing by any stretch of the imagination, because chess is awesome and everyone should play it.
I have a passing interest. I'll pick it up for a bit, and I used to live with one of my buddies, Jason, and we would play quite often. He would have a chess set in the kitchen, and we would play often. My tactic was suggest that we'd have drinks while we were doing it, and then it just got messy. So,
when I was at university, we had a chessboard that was shot glasses on it,
yeah.
which was it's just a, you circle the drain on that, because as soon as you start losing, you start hammering shots, you're game over. There's no way you're going to recover from that when you've started hammering down shots of whatever, be it vodka or something else. That's going to hit you pretty hard. I'm a big fan of chess. Don't play it much these days, but I do like it.
I didn't realize, but you were saying in our group chat, you used to be like a local champion, right?
I was, yeah. When I was wee, when I was about 8 or 9 until I was about 12 or 13, I think. In primary school, at the tail end of primary school, I played competitively, and I was one of the top 2 in my school. And then we got entered into the local championships, and the 2 of us that were from the top 2 of my school as well also did really well in those. And there was a guy called Christopher, was the other guy in my school. I still remember him like vividly, because we were sort of frenemies.
Nemesis.
Yeah, we we were really pally until we had to play each other at chess, and then it just all went out the window, and we were always competing for who was going to be the best in chess at the school, which is a weird thing to go for. He was always just better than me, like just marginal. He was the one person I couldn't quite get one over on all the time. And then I went to secondary school, and quite a funny thing happened at secondary school, because we had a sort of league in the school as well. And the way it worked, it was a ladder league, and you could only play the person directly above you in the ladder, or one above them. And if you beat the person above you, you'd move into their place. If you beat the person 2 people above you, you'd jump up, basically.
Yeah.
You'd leapfrog people. And I joined it, and I worked my way up the ladder quite quickly, and the guy at the top would not play me. He would find excuse after excuse after excuse to not play me. He'd just not be feeling well because I think we played at lunchtime. He'd not be feeling well that lunchtime, or he'd already arranged a game against the person who was 2 underneath him, and all this, that, and the other. And I was like, come on, man. So I never got to the top, because the top guy refused to play me for pretty much 2 years until I finished up at school. And then I kind of stopped playing. I do have a chess set. It's behind me right now. And I will break it out every now and then when the mood takes me.
I was just, so listeners, Tom and I have webcam as well. There we go. He's got his chess set out for me.
Just my chess set out.
Yes, just the chess set.
No pieces.
I too have a chess set, and I should play more. It's a really good game. How old do people reckon it is now? Like, there's been versions of it, like predating medieval times, but I think it's like the rules that we know now are probably from the medieval period at some point.
So they estimate that chess is about 1,500 years old.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I mean, there's sort of antique, or I suppose you'd almost call them archaeological chess pieces that have been uncovered throughout history. There was apparently kind of a predecessor to it in India, and then it spread out from there.
There are a couple, because there's the Viking one as well that has a name that I just cannot pronounce. I try, but I have no idea how to say. There's too many consonants, like, altogether. Like, imagine if people were still playing like Magic the Gathering in like 1,500 years time. How much would the game have changed?
Imagine the blow up by that point, just the sheer rules.
Well, geez, oh yeah. I mean, so I've got the stats in front of me now. Finally,
okay.
So,
hit us with the stats, Josh.
So October 23rd, 2020 is when the Queen's Gambit debuted.
Debuted.
Debuted on Netflix. So to date, 62 million households have watched the show. That's insane.
It is, but it's also not when you find out how Netflix pulled that stat.
Oh,
because
okay.
in order to get that stat, they have to have watched 2 minutes of the show. So that could include anyone that accidentally clicks on it and doesn't click off it within 2 minutes. It also, and this is where they get you, it also includes anyone who's watched the preview for it.
Okay, that's cheating.
Mm-hmm.
Like the 2 minutes thing is kind of like alright. I mean, like, clearly people were interested enough. I can't imagine, like, the number of people who click off a show after 2 minutes is like that. I can't imagine that's significantly different. The preview's cheating, though. Okay, so still
a high number.
A lot of people have watched it. Inquiries for chess sets are up 250% on eBay. Google search queries for how to play chess has hit an all-time high in 9 years. What happened 9 years ago?
Well, that was the big chess boom of 2011, right?
Do you know what I mean? Like, whenever I read a stat like that, it's like highest in however many years. Like, the first thing I always think is like, what on earth happened then?
Yeah, what caused that one? There'll have been some random like media thing then that will happen. There'll have been some either big event in chess or someone famous might have died, or there'll be something like that, or it'll be in a similar sort of TV show type thing.
Yeah. The original novel, The Queen's Gambit, they're calling it a novel, which now makes me think it is fiction, is now a New York Times bestseller 37 years after its release.
It's the gradual set of regret on your face.
Yeah, I have to leave this in now. It's like the realization that this is fiction. And the number of new players on chess.com has multiplied by 5 times.
So it's a good point to discuss how things like Netflix and media have this impact on board games and role-playing games and the general sort of community that we're part of. And I mentioned to you before we recorded that a similar thing happened with Stranger Things, with D&D. There was a surge in D&D interest off the back of Stranger Things as well. It is really good to see people taking an interest in chess off the back of a relatively dark show about chess, to be fair, in context.
Oh, right. Well, because this is it. I haven't watched it at all, so, like, is it one of the sort of Netflix dramedies, a bit like Orange is the New Black, or like, is it
a little bit, yeah,
more serious? Right.
It's a bit more serious, I would say, than probably Orange is the New Black. Basically, the premise, without giving too much away, because I don't want to spoil it for anyone that wants to go and watch it, it's about this young girl, has quite a tragic backstory, gets interested in chess, and she's a bit of a prodigy. Does really, really well, and it's all about her journey into the professional chess leagues, I suppose you would call it, and the challenges she faces, both as being a young woman going into what was at the time of this show is a very male dominated scene, and certainly portrayed as that.
I'm sure it still is, right, but less so.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I did it, when I was involved in even the the low rungs of local chess championships that I did, you would see probably 4 or 5 guys for every lass that was in it, probably. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just something that they push on men more than women, because I've come across my fair share of truly dominating women in chess. Josh.
I wasn't doing anything. Listeners, I wasn't even pulling a face.
It's the sparkle in his eye. You can't see it, but I can.
I've got ammunition.
But yeah, it's like it's interesting to see, but it's a good, like, if you like dramas, and if you're interested,
Inchested.
interested in that was an accident. Don't roll your eyes at me. If you're interested in getting involved in chess, it's a good show to watch, and I do suggest playing chess. It's a fun game.
Yeah. As a complete side note, just off the back of you saying that, I remember having I was on a video call with one of my managers like a while back. We're talking about working from home in general. I was saying, yeah, the video call thing is good though. I need to remember I can't roll my eyes as much as I normally do on like these telephone conferences because people can see me doing that. So
Yep. Yeah, I've been there, buddy. I feel you 100% on that one. Aside from that, the other thing we were going to discuss moving away from Netflix, which is difficult to do in the current climate, is I've pre-ordered a new computer game today. We're not going to talk about computer game. So I pre-ordered Cyberpunk 2077, which is a highly anticipated computer game.
Yes, the new Keanu Reeves simulator.
It's it's not a Keanu.
It's not that at all. He features in the promotional material.
It does, yeah. So this is made by the same guys who make The Witcher. CD Projekt Red. They were called. I don't know if they've dropped that off now. But they had Keanu Reeves in the one of the release trailers. I think he plays a character in the game as well, which is going to be cool. The reason why I wanted to bring this up isn't because I've pre-ordered the computer game, although it does tangentially relate to it, but it's a computer game reimagining of a role-playing game.
Much loved role-playing game as well. Cyberpunk is like, it's an OG one. Like it dates as far back as almost as far back as Dungeons and Dragons and Call of Cthulhu. So
yeah, it's got truly old school roots. The original Cyberpunk was I don't know if it was the original, but certainly the first one I was introduced to came out in 1990. It did have an edition before that from 1988. But in 1990, the first one I ever played was Cyberpunk 2020, which would have been this year.
Oh,
which is
wow.
Super weird to think about.
We should have ran it. Was everyone in quarantine in it?
No, they were just kind of dressed in a lot of leather.
Okay.
And there was a lot of neon. But yeah, it's not a great system. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend that it's something that it isn't. Like, the system I always found a little bit clunky, and some bits of it that can get really kind of dull.
What was it? Just like overly and unnecessary detail?
It was just a symptom of sort of late 80s, early 90s role playing games. To be honest, they were never quite sure what they wanted to be yet. They hadn't quite found the sweet spots that we were getting much closer to these days with role playing games. Not to say there's not some true nightmare fodder out there, but I always just found it a little bit clumsy, a little bit clunky in places. It wasn't quite smooth, but it had some really interesting mechanics in it. Like all about like how you start to lose your humanity when you start to add more and more cybernetic enhancements, and people start to go crazy because of it. It has something called cyber psychosis, I think it was called, if I'm remembering rightly.
Right.
Where basically if you lose too much humanity through augments, you just go mental and just cut people up and stuff. It had some really interesting setting stuff as well. This idea of like, which is scarily quite close to where we are now, big corporations sort of controlling a lot of the world, and everything. That. I know, right? And everything kind of being dictated by them rather than by any kind of democracy or
Imagine
government.
That.
I know, it's crazy. But then it had some really like not so good bits. Like it had net running, which was kind of like hacking. Which you could basically play a character who was a net runner, and your job would be like, oh, we need to like hack into this corporate building. That's your job because you're the net runner. So the net runner comes up, and rather than like how in a game we might play, it'd be like make a computers check, and then you get in, the Netrunner would actually have an entire mini game that they had to play that represented them like almost like kind of porting into the internet as it was.
So here's the thing. It sounds cool, except like in practice, what happens is, and like I played a Psyker in Pathfinder, and we never really used the special things that Psykers do for a similar reason. Basically, what this mechanic means is that you and the GM play a game while everyone else just waits. Like,
and that's exactly
and everyone else is unengaged with it, and they're listening to you do your thing, which. Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened with Netrunning. That was, you hit the nail on the head there. It was you and the GM, maybe another player if you had a couple of Netrunners for some obscure reason, who would, just play out this sort of mini game. I did know some people that quite liked the Netrunning side of things, but I just wasn't a fan. It was one of the things that kind of, I think I actually played a Netrunner the first time I ever played it, and I was like, this is garbage. This is boring. I don't want to do this.
Well, I think the way that you would make the idea work is that like everyone does it to some degree, but some people are just much better than others.
Just simplify it. Just make it a skill challenge. Like,
just do that. No, but like if the designer was like hell-bent on having this like little mini game thing, have everyone participate in it.
Yeah.
Like
you do in sort of space combat in space-based
Star
games.
Wars.
Yeah, to the best of your ability anyway. So yeah, that was Cyberpunk 2020. So I just thought that was a nice little opportunity to cast our mind back to an older system. They have done some newer systems. So they brought out this year a new edition called Cyberpunk Red, which I believe is set in 2040 or 2050 off the top of my head. So they've kind of moved the timeline forward a bit. So 2077 has been heavily involved with the people behind the role-playing game, and they've had their sort of expertise, which is really, really nice. But yeah, there you go. There's a little bit of trivia about Cyberpunk and its relationship to the new game.
I know so many people excited for that game, and I think I'm going to lose a lot of contact with friends. Yeah, Tom is pointing at himself as we're talking about this. So yeah, if obviously if you're into that, you're getting it. Like, everyone knows about it, so people are already buying it. So I don't need to instruct you to go and do that.
We're not here to promote computer games. Go buy a board game, you savage.
Yes, you. Yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good. We're all nerds here. So, and on that little note, I think that's all we've got time for. We're probably stretching. We had a recording mishap halfway through this episode, so it's a bit hard. Sorry, damn it!
Don't tell them what's going on behind the curtain. They'll never know.
We would have got away with it too if it wasn't for my meddling mouth. Right.
Josh's meddling mouth. Oh, God.
What was that?
End the episode. End the
episode. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.